Like, the point is, I am trying to make you believe because I believe. Like,
Right,
I
of
have
course.
dreams. I have everything. That term manifest is like, it's used, but like that was always what it was. Like,
Right.
always visualizing, always knowing exactly what I had in mind.
Yeah.
And just figuring out how do I get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of my big unlocks was business is just people. When I
Yeah.
realized everything was just people,
Yes.
I'm like, oh my God. Like,
Yes.
I'm going to do business.
First of all, tell me a little bit about your founder story for Three Wishes. You said you love making brands. You've been in media and marketing for a long time. Like, tell me a little bit about how this came about.
Sure. I've been doing branding and advertising since I was in high school. I always wanted to either go into film or advertising. When you couple that without Hollywood connections and ADHD, making commercials is a wonderful way to scratch the film itch and
Love it.
the lack of spending all your life on something for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
So work for ad agencies. Eventually, when I was 28, I started my own agency called Big Eyed Wish. I was growing that.
Okay.
That was really fun. I had a range of clients. We still have the agency, but there were a lot of entrepreneurs that would come as some clients, and we'd build brands for them, and some of them would get big. And you're like, wow, that's really cool. Like, okay, I mean, it's very fun to do the branding and the advertising.
That's very cool. Yeah.
But that's really fascinating.
So was it like small product companies or small like consumer companies that would come to you and you'd help them like build their, like get off the ground from a brand perspective?
We take companies in a few ways. One would be, hey, I need a name. I need packaging. I need my identity. I need the strategy. That, from literally like from nothing.
That's amazing.
Someone brought a technology to us. It was a micro-encapsulated scent technology. So for dog toys. So dogs are really all about their noses. And so imagine a dog that you didn't have to give treats to all the time. And as they masticated the toy, they would release it. So we named it. We packaged it. We did it.
Cool.
Now it's in a massive brand. So
That's amazing.
So you either get the retainer or the project or it's gone and that's it. You
Got
know?
it. Yeah.
And so it felt like it would be really cool to be able to create your own brand as well as helping others build them.
Okay, cool.
And then for other clients, you're doing the big, like a spot, a campaign, whatever. So it's called Three Wishes because my last name is Wishingrad. And at the time, it was my wife, my first son, and me. There was just three of us, so we were the Three Wishes. And when he was born, my wife, we always had like our eyes out for like, what would be a cool brand? Because I definitely had some FOMO with the Warbies and the Caspers and the Harrys and the Allbirds. You're like, whoa, and Bonza and Siete. And it's just every category felt like some millennial was coming in and disrupting something.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, these are all really good. And then my wife said cereal. And I'm like, oh my God, that's brilliant. That's the same thing. It's like Dollar Shave and Harry's are going after Gillette and whatever. Like they were always going after some mega incumbent, and it had that same formula. Oh my gosh, let's go after Post, Kellogg,
Cool.
General Mills.
Cool.
Now, I definitely thought it was going to be much easier than it is.
Yeah. Cereal's a hard category.
Anything I've realized, building any brand
Right.
to any sort of notoriety and success on both business and brand side is way harder than I anticipated. I was cocky and glib, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do some branding, and I'll like jazz hands my way into grocery stores, and wow, no. It is incredibly difficult to make a better for you cereal that tastes good and has good nutrition. Really, really hard.
Yep.
You can make something that has good nutrition that tastes like shit.
Yeah.
And you can market something as healthy that's not really healthy, but
Okay.
to create that mouthfeel, to make
Yeah.
something that's really rich in protein and low in sugar and gluten and grain-free and non-GMO.
And like you're not a like food scientist. So like what does that process even look like? You're like, okay, I got to go find a food scientist. I've got to find somebody to like make this. Like what do you do at that point?
So one of my hobbies is antiquing for people. So I have probably 13,000 people in my phone, well-noted contacts. And to me, that is the difference between you get your idea executed or you don't.
Got it.
And so I had clients that I had done work for that had better for you products. You start calling them. I'm not making a competitive product, but I'm really trying to do this. Who would you talk to? Days of phone calls. Meet my friend. He's cool. He's hungry. Talk to my friend. Whatever. Eventually get to the former president of Post Cereal. Eventually get to a food scientist that knows how to do extruded products. Like it is a lot of
Wow.
this. But when you imbue your passion
That's cool.
and your hunger to someone, they want to
Yeah.
help you. You're
Yeah.
not asking for money or anything.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you should talk to this person. And that's been everything in my life. Has just
That's
been
so cool.
that custody of relationship.
But like how did you, because you also still run your agency still to this day?
Well, I have two wives.
Okay.
I have Margaret, my marital wife, who's
Sure.
the CEO of Three Wishes. And I
Okay.
have a work wife, Melissa, that basically
Who's
runs
your
the agency.
Okay, got
Yes.
it. That's helpful because
No one with my lack of attention can really run anything. You could just get a buck list of things you want to get done that day and achieve them, but there's no running anything.
Right. That makes sense. That's cool. Okay. So you find the people, you get the right, like you have the right network of people, and then you're like, let's start testing all of this stuff. And it turns out that's quite hard. And so what is sort of the breakthrough moment?
Okay, so I ask questions like that, and I used to believe in that, and now I don't believe in that anymore.
Okay. So it's just many, many breakthrough moments throughout the years.
100%.
Yeah.
I said to my wife too many times, like, this is it. And she's like, it ain't it. There's no it. And I'm like, oh yeah. So we got to Costco. No, we got to Whole Foods. It just doesn't. There's no it. We had a round of cereal tasted good. Then it tasted bad. Then it tasted good. We made a lot of bad cereal. We spent a lot of our own. So we took our own money and took 2 years to really 2 years. And now it wasn't 2 years full. Excuse me. It wasn't 2 years every day nonstop, but it was 2 years of trying to make a good cereal. And once we got it, we're like, okay, now we have something. Now we
Okay.
could like
Yes.
raise some money and try to do this thing.
Yeah. Because once you have a stellar product, now it's a marketing exercise with which you are very comfortable, right?
I thought so. Also, that's also harder than I thought because yes, comfortable, but when you really are there's two ways to do it. So one, I would say I have such reverence for product now and understand. Now I ask myself, is Apple because Apple has made so many great ads, but their product is so good.
Right.
So you're like, they probably could have done well with a really bad ad too. So the ones where it's the advertising is like Old Spice.
Yeah.
Where it's like a stick of deodorant and boom, advertising made the difference there.
Yeah.
So for us, so much there, and so to launch, there was two paths. We raised some money.
Yeah.
Like we put a couple $100,000 of what we had to ourselves to do, and then we were like, but this still, you need to still bring some real capital to the game.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago, we launched in October 2019, and we raised just over $2 million. But we were under the impression this was, remember that period in time, that was raise, Series A, Series B. It was all just about valuations and growing. And Margaret hated the process of raising money so much. She saw it as begging. I did not. I was like, I'm giving you an opportunity to come aboard. And so she just runs the business in the most old school way, which has been incredible for us because we've been profitable for years and never had to raise again. And that's
great.
Really not what you see in our industry. And so if we chose to do the raise train, yes, it would be like marketing. But we really needed to pray that good packaging, good price point,
good
on the
product.
shelf,
Product
was just going to do its thing.
Promotion, the 4 Ps,
those 4 Ps.
Back to basics.
It is so that.
Yeah.
And watching it do. Now, of course, we've spiked it with tons of cool stunts and marketing, and we do marketing and influencer and trade spend, but it's not in the way that I would never really come into these businesses. I would either build them and they'd go like this, or you come in when they have a budget, like we want a TV spot, or they really are marketing. This is a weird place to really grow something from zero to something.
So cool. So where are you on the journey right now?
So we call 2024 was the year of putting the big boy pants on.
Okay.
It was adding bodies to supply chain. It was figuring out the next level of everything from on the finance side, on lines of credit, on just doing all these businessy things of depth of manufacturing partners. We entered into new lines. So we're cereals are still our main business. Right now we launched our Better For You Quaker Chewy Bar, and that's at 1,500 Targets, and we launched exclusively with them.
Cool.
And now we just found out it's going to go wider to other places in April when that's over. And then we also have a line of granola. So it's like, okay, we diversified the brand. Now we really have to grow all lines of business. And then in a couple of weeks, starting January 1, we launch into 4,000 Walmarts.
Amazing.
So that
Congrats.
has been that. And staging the growth.
Yeah.
Where had I not known better, and I have really good mentors that have all exited businesses or been ahead of me, have really cautioned. It is so exciting to want to say yes to whatever the door is. Target came to us and we said no. And then we said no. And then on the third time we said yes. And not that we didn't want to be in Target, but if you don't have the pockets to support and the brand awareness, going into Target and flopping is a death.
You don't get back in the door a second time.
I mean, no, you don't.
If you had advice for somebody who's like, oh, I really want to make this product, give me a piece of advice that's kind of kept you going throughout.
Well, you want to make a product, go make a product, I guess. It's making a product's one thing. Suiting up to really go for it. You really need to look in the mirror and know what you're good at and what you're not good at and be really honest with yourself.
Right. And then when you're not good at something,
You better find those partners.
got it.
There's no other way. Like I'm not suited to be the CEO.
And so you are able to lean on the people that you trust because you know that like that's not going to be your skill set. I'm going to lean on the people I trust and they're going to be able to manage this part of the business for me or whatever that might be.
Yes. And I also made so many mistakes early on at the agency that
Right.
I fortunately did not make the same mistakes later. You're going to make mistakes. And a lot of times the brands that wind up doing these Series A and Series B is because they're making mistakes. They're growing. So yes, they're spending, they're growing market share, but they're really inefficient. Their margins are bad. Their numbers are upside down. They're not profitable. So we really, the same way we haven't had like an it moment, we also haven't had a, oh my God, we're dead moment.
Okay.
There's been a
Steady
real,
state growth.
really steady,
Yeah.
cautious,
Yeah.
because we don't want to. I mean, we run the company. We have
Has that-
investors, but we're not reporting and like there's a board, and
Yeah.
if we don't do this in under a certain amount of time, we're going to get kicked out of our own company. It's like we really want to. We control the growth
Yeah.
in a measured manner.
And has that been a learning curve for you or an experience in having to slow down and having to maybe go slower than you wanted?
Oh yeah, I mean that is the hardest part. Restraint in everything for me in life. To be quiet, to not do it, to hold back is
Right.
really difficult.
Right. When you have those impulses, like, is it that you can kind of lean on Margaret and your team to say, like, no, we're not doing that, sorry, and like push back on you?
I'm so immune to getting no's, which I get all the time. I mean, literally ideas all the time. So I can't even say it doesn't bother me, but everyone shuts me down. And I fight when I really feel like there's something worth fighting for. But the best thing about advertising, I was interning at Gray Advertising in college, and this guy, he had all these trophies in his, he was all like a famous ad guy, and I was aspiring to be him. And he told me like 95% of your stuff's gonna die. And that just like, batting 300 in baseball is good. And you're like, it's all gonna die. And so when you're used to everything dying, every idea dying, you're like, all right. So
Just another idea.
Just another idea. So
Yeah.
we just do another idea. That one wasn't compelling enough. But I do fight for ones that, I think have merit.
Cool. Do you know what your Enneagram number is? Have you ever heard of Enneagram?
No.
It's this like personality test. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, I know my Myers-Briggs one. I don't know. I'm an ENTJ.
Okay. So like, cause you're probably like one of those like big picture thinkers, kind of coming up with the innovation. And then like leaning on your team to help drive it through. Is that like kind
Always,
of what
yeah.
your leadership style is? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
like-
feel the same way. I'm the same way.
It's like, what's the problem? Oh, we really need a supply chain person. Okay, great. I cold call the number 2 at supply chain at Siete. How'd you get there? Oh,
Right.
there's this recruiter. I meet the recruiter. I say
There
what
you
I
go.
need. We
Yeah.
poach someone out of Simple Mills.
Yeah.
That's, like, it's just
How
reverse
did you
engineering.
get that level of confidence that you have, that you're able to just like ask the questions and do the thing?
I think there are certain things that are just innate.
You've always been this way.
Always delusional.
Yeah.
Like I went up to Whoopi Goldberg on the street, pitched her an idea. She gave me her email, and then we executed it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and then like
I need that.
it takes
I need a little bit
because
of that.
I learned that there's a delusion. I have like a delusion, honestly, and I'm so passionate about whatever this idea is that when you really believe it, you could really, convince someone else. So
Yeah.
And what's the worst? I've always done like, what's the worst?
Right. A no is
A
not
no.
scary. But why to people is no such a scary word? And how do you get around that? Like you have obviously figured out how to not let no be such a fearful thing. So how have you like gotten around that?
I don't know. It doesn't. I don't know. But I'm really grateful that so many people are so fearful and
And you're not. And
Yeah,
you're like, I'm
because
just going to ask.
If it was if the world was a meritocracy insofar as like it was just, you didn't have to be, you just needed to like show your numbers, here's your test scores, here's your aptitude, I wouldn't like that.
Right. Of
But
course.
the cojones element of it and the fearlessness is a huge thing. Mm-hmm. And you get calloused as you get older in a good way.
Right.
So you're even more like whatever.
It doesn't matter.
And I've had this attitude but I also couldn't do it for something I didn't believe in.
Right.
I'd be terrible.
Right.
But when I believe, I'm like, I'm going to make this ridiculous, amazing cereal brand. You have an opportunity to make so much money. And it's not, this is how,
I mean, I'm right here and I'm like, okay, I'm sold.
Yeah. But I'm not, this is not actually how I pitch it. But like, the point is, I am trying to make you believe because I believe. Like,
right.
I have dreams. I have everything that term manifest is like, it's used. But like, that was a word I didn't know that was always what it was. Like,
right.
Always visualizing, always knowing exactly what I had in mind.
Yeah.
And just figuring out how do I get there. And then once I determined, my parents commuted to the city. And neither of them did anything creative. And it was suits and briefcases and clip-clops. I remember the clip-clops of Grand Central Terminal and thinking, oh, but I knew I wasn't a business person. Mm-hmm. And then one of my big unlocks was business is just people. When I realized that everything was just people, I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm going to do business.
Right. Right.
So,
and have you always been like good with people? Like you said,
yes.
you're an ENTJ. So like obviously you're an extroverted
absolutely
person. So that's always been sort of just innate inside of you.
100%.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, so I don't have to like, if you ask yourself how to get into Whole Foods, well, that feels like a big building with a big brand.
Yes.
But I don't have to get into Whole Foods. I need to convince John Lawson, who runs the Northeast, to take me.
Okay.
Then I need to convince this person. So I really just need to convince people.
So do you map it out? Like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Like,
100%.
do you literally map it out in that way?
Well, it's not so psychotic and deliverable. Like, when you, like, let's quarter this animal and do this. But my brain does work. Who do I need? What is the way to get there?
Right.
Like, there's ways in our industry, if you want to get into a retailer, there's 3 ways. They call you. You call them directly, or you use a broker because you have no connections.
Okay.
A lot of the accounts we do because I found a way in directly.
Okay.
Then you learn there's a reason for brokers a lot of times because there's so much to manage at some point. But like, there's a difference between getting in and I got in and now I'll let you manage my business, which also changes the
dynamic with
the dynamic of everything.
Right.
And so like Erewhon, Wegmans, Whole Foods, Costco, like these are things you just go.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What's the next vision? You had a vision to build this amazing, healthy for you cereal brand. You did it. You're in these places. Like, it's happening. Now you've expanded into other product lines. I'm sure you're thinking about the future product lines. Like, what is the next chapter for you?
So the next chapter is a few things. One was, as the year of optimization, is to really be able to make limitless amounts of cereal, which we have not had limitless supply because we don't manufacture ourselves. There's 2 ways to do it. We would have definitely needed to raise a ton of money if we were going to buy a factory and staff it. It's very common. We develop the intellectual property and the formula, and then we find a co-manufacturer that makes it. But you are at the mercy of their machinery, of their schedule, of their capacity. So the goal for me is break-even sampling at scale is what I really dream of.
Okay.
Because when the product is so good, if I'm really trying to convert you, I used to sit in Stu Leonard's. Do you know that store?
Yeah.
Right. I went to college.
Saturday was like sample day, right?
Yeah. So before COVID, I went to college with the founder's granddaughter. So that was one of my first accounts. Hey, she's like, sure. And I went Saturday and Sunday. I would sell so much cereal and I would sample. When the product's good, get it in their mouth. Now, not every store has the traffic where sampling is not. We do not actually do a lot of sampling because it's not that effective. But at Costco, it is. At certain accounts, it is. And I'm like, man, how cool would it be? And I fly a lot. How cool would it be to be on that airplane snack? We're very clean. We're non-GMO. We're non-allergen. So if I could find a way to sell it to them for literally the cost that I make it, because I know those are usually that is not a profit center for people.
Yeah.
Sometimes you even lose to be able to distribute your product.
Yep.
So if I have enough capacity that I could put my cinnamon O's in a little pouch and get that served out to millions of people on Delta or JetBlue or whatever, wow. Because I just want you to taste it.
I love it.
So that to me is like a real vision I have. I don't need more products. Granola, granola bars, and cereal. Besides versions or sizes or flavors, we have plenty to build the brand that we are building.
Cool.
At this point, it's not about how many more doors. It's how many more facings. Because that's the presence you see. When you go to the detergent aisle, it's Tide. When you go to cereal, it's Cheerios. Not only, but a lot, right?
Yeah.
So you have to justify that I can keep moving these products and take more and more real estate, which in turn does a lot more sales.
Well, I'm excited to go sample more flavors, personally.
We have a cool one coming out this summer. The one that's out right now, like our seasonals, we do these seasonals, is hot chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
My son came up with a really fun flavor
That's
that we're
cute.
developing for the summer.
Cool.
And
I love it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate your time.